This PodFast is a summary of a conversation between Sam Harris of the Making Sense podcast and Tim Urban of the Wait But Why blog. In this conversation, we'll explore Tim's motivations for starting the Wait But Why blog, as well as his inspiration for writing his new book, What's Our Problem? A self-help book for societies, a book that analyzes how in the face of technologies such as genetic engineering or AI, and how in the face of nuclear proliferation or nuclear war, it seems like the prospect of our ruining things is always increasing, and it's getting easier and easier for a small number of people deranged by mental illness or some terrible ideology to ruin everything for millions and even billions of citizens of planet Earth, a concept Tim refers to as the Great Derangement. Here are 6 key takeaways from the conversation between Sam Harris and Tim Urban. Key takeaway number 1, Tim's college years and the birth of the Wait But Why blog. In college, Tim was pretty sure he wasn't going to have a normal career. He didn't like homework and schedules, so he leaned towards the creative disciplines. He had multiple jobs and multiple hobbies during these years. When he turned 31, realizing there was a shortage of well-written articles, he picked one of his hobbies to go full-time into. He got into blogging. This is where Wait But Why was born. Wait But Why is a well-written, illustrated blog covering topics such as procrastination, science, time management, and political theory, in which Tim adds another axis to the political spectrum and calls it the ladder. We'll explore this concept further in just a moment. In the words of Tim Urban, Wait But Why is the product of spending way too much time perfecting 4th-grade drawing-level stick figures, opening 42 different browser windows to do research, and pacing around in his underwear hating himself. In reality, though, it's a fascinating blog with over 600,000 subscribers that covers a wide range of topics from artificial intelligence to social anxiety to humans becoming a multiplanetary species. Key takeaway number 2, the birth of What's Our Problem? A self-help book for societies. The book, which was originally intended to be a blog post, is written in a style very similar to the Wait But Why blog. It was inspired by the realization that Tim had been exposed to mostly progressive, blue ideology from the universities he attended and the cities he lived in, and in his social circles, those with conservative red ideologies were painted as the political bad guys. This problem couldn't be that simple. There had to be a bigger, deeper problem going on. One of the inspirations for his research for the book was actually a debate between Sam Harris and Ben Affleck on The Bill Maher Show. He described Sam as being the one who put forth independent, fearless, reasoned opinions, while Ben Affleck provided the knee-jerk, dogmatic responses of someone who wasn't even listening. In a time when we are adopting technologies such as AI, free machine interfaces, genetic engineering, and other amazing technologies at an explosive rate, the stakes are higher than ever. The good is going to be even better in the next century than it ever has been before, and the bad could be even worse. In the face of these high stakes, humanity needs to be its wisest, most grown-up self. Yet we, as a society, seem to be growing younger and less wise. We're being presented with technologies that could give us immense power as a species, an opportunity for what would seem like a utopia, yet we're not doing the things we need to get there. We are moving in the wrong direction. The blog post kept growing bigger, and every topic Tim researched seemed relevant to it. Every current event story needed to come in and simply subsumed Tim. Every other topic seemed secondary. 6 years and hundreds of stick figures later, the book was born. Key takeaway number 3, could we be experiencing the climax of the story of humanity? There is a tendency for people to think that the time in which they live in is the end of days. You see that today with people on social media putting forward ideas of complete catastrophe without any perspective. If we imagine human history as being a 250,000-year history written into a book where each page represents 250 years, the first 950 pages of this 1,000-page book would be filled with almost nothing. Sure, you might find some technological developments like the invention of an arrowhead every 100 pages or so, but really, almost nothing happens. The last few pages, however, the epilogue maybe, are just an anomaly in every way possible. Every part of our crazy modern world, from electricity to communications to car travel, air travel, and space travel. Every one of these developments would be a page 1000 phenomenon. If you were an alien reading this book, you would find yourself on the edge of your seat wondering what's about to happen to this species. Perhaps it's not so naive to think that we're at the climax of the story, or at least one of the climaxes of the story. When you've grown up in a world of social media and modern liberal democracy, you could think that this is the way things are, but they're not. This is a very new, artificial invention that gives us all an incredible life that people before us never got to have. And it's all being held together by a set of laws, rules, customs, and values that are only as good as the people who are willing to uphold them. If any of these puzzle pieces goes missing, the machine stops working. Yes, there are reasons for optimism and hope, but it's worth considering that the introduction of new technologies and ideas could have put humanity past a point of no return. Key takeaway number 4. Reality is boring, but a reality show is always interesting. How do you turn boring reality into interesting entertainment? You edit out all the boring stuff and you hype up the conflict and the drama, so it's just an endless string of conflict and drama which gets into our ancient brains. Our ancient brains love that. This is where the love for gossip comes from. It gives humans a reason to bond together and form a tribe to bash outsiders of the group. It's not that different from junk food. If you're given a candy bar, one part of your brain will think, "This is not good for me. Maybe we can have a little treat, but let's be sparing with it." The other part of the brain, the dumb part, the one you had during the first 950 pages of the book, wants to devour it. Calories were hard to come by in hunter-gathered times, so eating a really sweet and dense thing seems like a good idea. You don't know when you're going to come across any kind of calories again. Politics is really boring, and just like a reality show, it can be edited into an endless fictional narrative of conflict, drama, heroes, and villains that people are addicted to. Just like the candy bar companies make a ton of money by selling to our primitive minds. News networks also make a ton of money by selling junk news to our primitive minds. Key takeaway number 5, the latter. Our political discussions are massively constrained by an oversimplistic, one-dimensional horizontal axis that goes from the far left, moderate, center, moderate right, and right. What Tim Urban has done is added a vertical axis to this spectrum and called it the ladder. This axis has to do with how a person thinks. The low rungs on the ladder is the primitive mind that is addicted to candy bars. It doesn't care about truth. It's not a part of your consciousness. Your primitive mind is about belief preservation, thinking like a zealot. People will defend religious beliefs, nutrition, or opinions on how to raise their children. Sam Harris did a study with Jonas Kaplan comparing regular beliefs to people's very sacred topics. They presented people with evidence against their belief system and found very high levels of resistance. The highest rung of the ladder is where you're thinking like a scientist. You're okay to argue, you're not attached to your ideas, you're true to your principles. The middle rungs are where the mind is most at conflict. Yes, you're interested in the truth and the scientific method, but you also have the influence of your primitive mind pushing your investigation towards ending at the right conclusion. We become skeptical of things that disagree with us, and gullible of things that confirm our beliefs, even if the evidence is not completely accurate. Key takeaway number 6, Idea Lab versus Echo Chamber. The thought ladder applies to individuals. The echo chamber applies to groups. Why would anybody want to be in the lower rungs of the ladder? The answer is because we're social creatures. An idea lab is where the culture of the group is to not treat ideas as sacred and every idea can be destroyed. But people will be respected. Humility is encouraged. It's okay to say, "I don't know." Arguing is fun and it's a way to get smarter. Our brains can work together. Thinking like a scientist brings a perpetual tension between accepting authority and scientific consensus and being skeptical of authority and consensus. Everyone knows that the most celebrated scientist can be wrong in their very next utterance. The echo chamber, the other kind of group culture, is where the primitive minds in a bunch of people's heads get together to protect their beliefs. They do this by imposing social penalties on anyone who expresses doubt in the sacred ideas. Here, people will talk about how right and good we are, and how wrong and bad the people who disagree with us are, basically in a ritual. Arguing is a fight. Disagreeing with someone is an offense. Members of this group want to please the group. There is a social incentive to conform and avoid independent thinking. This kind of thinking, which might have been useful in killing a rival tribe to survive, makes no sense in today's day and age and only contributes to the Great Derangement. Thank you for listening to this PodFast summary of the conversation between Sam Harris and Tim Urban. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. See you next time.